pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Much better than the answer.
Privilege of the floor. Anyone? Would you like to say anything?
Nice to be here.
Okay, great. Nice to have you. We're just giving you the opportunity. Going once, going twice. Okay. Okay. Has everyone had a chance to look over the minutes of the last meeting? Are there any changes you would like to make before we vote on it?
I move we approve.
It's all good.
What's that?
I move we approve.
Yes, thank you, Jim.
I
Second.
second.
Norma seconds. All in favor of approving of the minutes?
Aye.
All right, the minutes are approved. Thank you very much. Treasurer's report, Jack.
Oh, thank you. Good evening, everybody. Yeah, there was one check.
Sure.
Appreciate that. We have the reports here through January, so more than halfway through the year. And also for the board packet, we included the checks paid during the month as well. I think we're gonna be including that every month from here on in.
Okay.
The
thank
check,
you.
the check one, sure.
Just a point of information, do we have any information for people that come to the meeting, any packets?
We talked about that.
Yeah, because I think we're actually supposed to have copies for people that come to the meeting.
Voila.
So,
She's got them, oh, good, she does.
okay, so if you guys wanna look on,
I'm
I'm
sorry, I
sorry.
only have the one.
Okay, go ahead, Jack.
Okay, great. So month 7, more or less staying on track. The salary line was a little high for the month. Year to date, we're still within under $500, slightly over, but I think the payroll we just did for the first one for February was slightly under, so year to date, we're pretty much like right on target for salaries. The books I'm a little behind on. I gotta enter some more this week, but we've been working on the annual report and some other things, but we last paid Baker and Taylor, I think, back in the second week in January, so I wanna make sure I get them another check, this week. And I don't think anything else really stood out, more or less staying on track. Yeah, year-to-date total 791, actual spending budget 802, so 11,000 under budget year-to-date. So I think we're staying where we should be, and as we said the last meeting, we have plenty of cash in the account now, and we'll be getting our last 10% tax revenue check at the end of February or early March,
Great.
so the next month or so.
Does anyone have any questions for Jack?
Did you say we were, I apologize, did you say we were over in the salary line?
Yeah, slightly.
Because?
We just had more overtime for certain employees, or
Yeah, would you? I don't have.
and the hourly employees had extra hours, I guess, during that. And I don't know if during the holidays if people had comp pay or something like that. But the first payroll in February that's not included in this report was under. So year to date now, if you count that, we're probably like exactly on. But even here, we're only off by $400 out of 423,000. So, within a really small, almost like a bullseye.
Okay, thank you.
I know in the past we talked about the building maintenance, offsetting that with
Right.
repairs. Is that similar? Is that some of what the hours are?
Yeah, that's what the hours are. If it wasn't for some of the building repairs, we would probably be, 5,000 or 6,000 under.
Yeah, and then we're doing that internally because it saves money anyway.
Right.
Versus having somebody come in where we can.
Right, so accounting for that, then we're definitely doing under budget, right? Yeah, there's no doubt about that, right?
Thank you.
I had a question where, on the line, under other expenses for election,
Sure.
in December, there were no election expenses, but there were 9,000 in January.
Yeah, 'cause the bill just came from the school district. That's actually the one I have here. It just, and Carol and I were working on it just to make sure that everything looked, legit. And, they covered the election workers normally we would pay.
Mhm.
Lee and his wife, they paid it directly, and then they, invoiced us for all the election materials.
Okay, and then you're showing, that's the summary, okay, okay, that makes sense, thank you.
Right. Yeah, normally the election would have, normally it's April, so it wouldn't have been around now, but I know that's a higher figure than the normal election amount, but we had just gotten that from the school like in the last week or two. So, that's why it's showing up in January.
And that election you're referring to there is the referendum?
Referendum.
Right.
Now, is
Yep.
that something that we can reimburse, since it's a new building expense, reimburse out of the,
I would think so,
put it back
but
in the operating funds?
We're gonna find out for
Mhm.
sure. We
Okay.
haven't been working on the details of what we can and cannot reimburse the library for.
Okay, thank you.
right, and we have a detailed listing of what all that 9,000 was. We have a summary page and then an actual breakout of all
Right.
the legal ads, election workers,
Mm-hmm.
the ballots and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll definitely look into whether we can get reimbursed for that.
Mm-hmm.
So the 2,600 for that line item is really for the April election anyway.
Right.
So
Right.
that whole amount is
Right.
over and above, so it's
Right.
important to. Okay.
Exactly, right, because normally the regular election is right around the 2,500 to 3,000, usually right around 2,600.
Yeah.
So,
Did you begin the separate accounting for the, going forward for the new building to keep?
Capital
the
fund.
Yes.
Capital fund, so,
we haven't had to pay that many yet, but we're beginning to track it separately, like we have,
no,
I
but
s-
is the election something that should go into that?
yeah, it'll be coded
So
to,
that when you're looking to see what can be reimbursed, that we don't forget any items.
right, if once we find out that we can be reimbursed, then we'll code that to capital, and then it won't even show up on this report, but we just wanna, find out
Mhm.
first.
Any other questions for John? Can I have a motion to accept the treasurer's report? Thank you, Keith. Anyone second the motion? Megan, all in favor?
All right.
Okay, thank you very much.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, oh, yeah,
So, I don't know if everybody brought their copy back with them. We have.
sure, should I go make copies, or,
Yeah, would you just?
yeah, is it right that I wrote on it, I just?
Yeah, that's fine. It's just something to reference in case because I forgot mine, so I
Yeah.
don't know if other people did too.
Sure. Excuse me.
What is it,
I'm gonna go
What did we
copy
forget?
that budget.
We're gonna vote on the budget later, and I just wanna make sure everybody has copies of it, so Jack's gonna make sure he has enough.
It was in the packet last week.
It was in last month's packet, so you might not have it tonight. So that's why Jack's gonna make some
Okay.
extra copies.
Carol?
1 to 2%.
Right, Janet.
Carol?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you vote to approve Jack?
Yes, we did.
I'm sorry, I got distracted.
That's fine, we did.
May I have that again?
It was Keith, and Megan, and then we all said yes. Aye, we all said aye. There were no nays. Okay. Director's report, Matt.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Major point of business this month is the annual report, which is due
Today.
at midnight. And we are just now submitting it. I was here on Saturday working on it after the Friends trolley discussion down the road, but there's a few things that Jack had to finish off today. So if we look a little more frazzled and wild and woolly than usual, it's just been a busy couple of days. I don't think there's any for sure. Yeah. Well, you can see here we remain closed on Saturday, January 23rd due to hazardous weather. We've been very lucky this winter, obviously. Last year was a different story. We now have the woman that does our print newsletters is working on our e-newsletters. We decided to do it every other week, so it's going to come out twice a month on the 1st and the 15th. And the idea is the 1st will have sort of information about what's upcoming, and the 15th will have a little of what's upcoming and a little bit of reflection on what's gone on. And so that's the format we're using now. I like how it looks. It seems to be working.
What is this?
That's the 2%.
Okay, just-
Electric contract providers were switched. I mentioned we were looking for a new deal. We got something for
Oh, yeah,
12
that
months,
should be-
and it will save us
Yeah, I
about
didn't change it up
$1,000.
there.
for the year.
Yeah, it's not pulling up there, just,
Sorry.
What's up there?
Okay.
I should have said 1.01, but that's the one.
Aside from the annual report, most of the month has
That's the
been.
year before.
Oh, wait till I finish.
I'm sorry,
That's
I'm
okay.
so sorry.
It's, yeah, it was just each year, it was 2, so we didn't do the, did I give you the one with the 1 on it that one time? I can't remember.
That's
Or I did.
Yeah,
No, I could run up and do it.
would you please?
I forgot this was the sheet
I'm
with
sorry.
the year-over-year comparison.
Right, okay, thank you, Jack.
Getting a
Sorry.
lot of
That's all right.
exercise.
Let's see, yeah, new building progress. Well, Ellen Mary will talk more about this later when we talk about the letter that's in your packet for the school district. There was lots of discussion back and forth among the various parties, fiscal advisors that work both with the school and with the library and with the bond council in deciding the best approach for selling the bonds, at what point, the timing, etc. Far be it from me to be able to explain the details, but basically it comes down to trying to figure out, what's in the best interest in terms of the library and the taxpayers, what will get the biggest bang, for our buck. So Ellen Mary will have more on that later. There were a few different scenarios that were discussed, but it looks as if the wisest way to proceed is to borrow on those bonds, get the bond anticipation note up front, until we have a better idea of what the contractors, what the actual building costs are going to be. And at that point,
And so,
once that number or that range of numbers is established, the bonds would be sold, because we're not sure now what it would actually be. Would it be 9.3? Could be lower. We're not sure. It can't be higher. We know. So that's as far as I know, that's where we're at this point. Had a whole bunch of meetings this month. We had a couple meetings that revolved around the floor plans, and we were soliciting advice or opinions and from a variety of stakeholders. We had the historical committee of the Friends meet one night. Jim was there, and discuss the plans. Their main interest was the position of the Historical Society, both the square footage, whether it should be on the upper floor, lower floor, storage concerns. And then we met again last week, I believe, with RCLS, Robert Hubsher, our architect, and the building committee, and had further discussion about the plans as they stand now, just basically brainstorming or getting expert advice from other quadrants. And most of we'll talk about this more, I'm sure, but main points being storage being an issue.
Neither Megan or Paul?
Megan was there.
She was
Yes,
there.
Megan was. Megan and Mr. Rowland, an engineer. The main points out of that were storage again, which seems to be a running issue, and where to put the Friends bookstore, and again what we should do with the as far as the local history goes. And Robert Hubsher had an interesting point about there being 2 entrance exits on the upper floor with the children's room, which he had a problem with, which I thought was an interesting point. So I think a number of good ideas came out of those conversations, and I guess I'm sure there'll be more to follow.
Can we talk about it?
Yeah, when we get to the building.
Going to the new building.
Yeah. Let's see, I mentioned some, oh yes, we attended the Chamber of Commerce breakfast, I believe that was, yes. Ellen Mary gave a PowerPoint on where we're at, and we had questions from the audience, and it was I think it went well. It was a good turnout, and people seemed generally interested, excited. There was a lot of questions, but all, sort of positive vibe, so it was good. I went to the Directors Association's meeting, the Directors Association Executive Officers meeting, and Jack and I attended a workshop at RCLS for the annual report. The Friends had a great event Saturday down the street at the Main Street School. I'd say 40 people were there, probably.
60.
That was more
60.
like 60.
60 people showed up. So I'm not sure what to attribute that bump in attendance. I mean, we've always had fairly good attendance over there, but that was probably, I'd say, the best that I can remember. And I think part of it's that we're using, I keep touting the digital newsletter, but that went out a few days before, and I think that helped out. I know that Bill Troy got a lot of information out through the various media outlets, so it's just overall a good PR campaign, I think, and brought people out. I actually dreamt of Charlie's last night.
So you know you need a vacation.
You need a vacation.
That's right. When you're dreaming you're at work, then you know you're in trouble.
And lastly, well, the biggest facility issue this time around was that Danny was unhappy with calcium chloride pellets being used by our,
God bless them.
yeah, so I called them up and they're using something else, so. It's not I guess the calcium chloride was getting into the, I don't know, those little pellets. You
Oh, they
see
stick
them,
to your shoes and end up in the road.
and they end up in the, he said they were firing around the place from the vacuum cleaner, so, you know, he could have vacuumed and they'd be like popcorn, anyway. So, I'm happy to say that's it for building concerns,
Good.
so. Any questions?
I don't think so. Okay, well, thank you, Matt. So we're gonna go to the committee reports. Do you need to say something about this one?
Am I staying or?
Yeah, I think it'll be good.
Yeah, okay, yeah, sure, of course.
Thanks. All right. New building. Well, a couple of things. We are going to, as Matt said, we're going to, we've decided after discussions with our attorney and the attorney's discussions with the school's attorney and with fiscal advisors that we're going to borrow $950,000. The actual projected expenses for this fiscal year coming up are in the 700 and change neighborhood, but we have no cushion if we just did that. If we go to $1 million, then it would be, the fees and the interest rate goes through the roof for some reason, but $950,000 we can do. I know it's weird. But so what we're going to do is borrow $950,000 on a bond anticipation note that will be an interest-only loan that we will pay the interest back by April of next year.
Yes.
Right. And we should have that money
March.
sometime March this year, so then we can pay the architect, we can pay the construction manager. The reason we don't want to sell the bonds yet, as Matt was explaining, is because we don't know what the exact cost is going to be. The school was pushing us to sell the bonds, they really were hot to just do it and be done with it. But it's not actually in the library's best interest, it's not a wise move, because we may not need all $9.3 million. We don't know yet what it's actually gonna cost, so until we do, it's not wise to buy the bond, to sell the bonds. So this was the smarter way to go. Fiscal advisors will, said that the, interest rate right now is hovering under 1%, but it might be as much as 1.25, so that's why we came up with the, amount, 11,875, that's 1.25% of 950,000. I know, it's dizzying. But, that we will have our own vote on a capital budget, and each time we have an expense like this that we have to report to the school so they can collect, we will have our own capital budget vote. The public already voted on this, they already approved it because they said, yes, you can build your library. So this is mostly a bookkeeping vote that we're gonna have this evening, and everybody should have a copy of the letter that our lawyer drafted for the school district, explaining what we're doing and why, so I'm just explaining it now in case there's any questions.
I have a question.
Yes,
Who
go right
gets to
ahead.
hold the $950,000,
We do, it goes into our Orange County trust account.
and that is paying what interest right now?
It's, what is it that paying?
It's,
They're all about the same.
yeah, like 0.1% or something like that.
Yeah, they're all really,
But if-
they're
Well,
terrible.
usually the more you put in, the larger
Yeah.
the percentage, so maybe rather than around 1%, it could end up costing us maybe 0.5% or something.
I'll,
Right.
tomorrow I'll call them again and,
Yeah.
and speak to them about that.
Right.
About if we put more in, what will the rate be?
Yeah, and I would check with more than one bank, because
Sure.
I think there's quite a bit of,
Mm-hmm,
they're starting to, I think, to get a little competitive.
right, sure. Sure.
We were defaulted to that account because we already have the standing account open and we can't
Mhm.
commingle the funds. So we wanted to, when the check comes in, that's where it'll go. But if we do, you're right, if we find someplace with a better interest, we'd have to open a new account and put the money in there.
But I think there's other issues with that, because we talked about it at RCLS, right, where there's a certain type of unsecured account or secured account or something like that. So we might need to, because it's tax dollars, we might need to put it in a particular type of account that for RCLS, they said only Orange County Trust provided those accounts.
Oh, that might be
So-
why we have that, because we had that as the original capital account the last time.
Yeah.
So that's why we still had that account.
It's actually, that one is with Key. We have,
Oh,
right,
oh,
yeah, so it's with Key.
oh.
The
Okay.
Orange County, we have the money market now, but that's operating, I guess would have to be the Key.
Alright,
The
so-
one that had that 30 grand in it a few
Right,
years
right.
ago, right.
Yeah, okay.
But the same
Anyway.
thing, I'll find out the rate for
Thank
that.
you.
Sure.
And right, and find out the restrictions on
Competitive
that.
and the restrictions, sure.
Right.
Mm.
You got it.
What was the school boards, you said it's not in our best interest, what is,
The school
What
board
was the
wanted to sell
discussion?
the bonds right now, but we don't know exactly what our expenses are going to be. So to sell the bonds right now would be premature, because we would have $9.3 million worth of bonds sold when we may not spend $9.3 million. And the interest rates can fluctuate, so we might be selling them now at a higher rate, you know, and owing them at a higher rate than it might be a year from now. So on fiscal advisor's advice, our lawyer's advice, and even the school board's lawyer's advice, that it was best to wait.
when do they need to know by, in terms of when we borrow, so what they need, whatever paperwork they need to do in terms of the borrowing, when do they need to know?
Tomorrow morning, so we're going to
No.
vote on
When do they need to know, other than this one, when
one.
do they need to know when we're ready for them to sell the rest
Whenever
of the bonds?
we're ready, they can just wait. We can do it next year. Our lawyer said to wait until next year when we've gotten all of the bids, thank you. The jobs aren't, the jobs associated with this new building aren't gonna go out to bid until this time next year, like January of 2017. So we won't know what bids we have, what the overall cost is going to be until spring of 2017. Then we can calculate how many bonds we have to sell, and then we will tell the school board what to.
Wouldn't it be helpful to us if we had the money? I'm thinking in terms of interest rates, like, if we use the interest that we would get on, let's say we do borrow 9.3 million, to use whatever interest we get to pay for things like more computers, more furniture, maybe more space, that folks have been asking us for, and you know, have money coming in from the bonds.
The advice of counsel and the fiscal advisors was to not do it, and since they do this all of the time and we don't, we defer to their advice, that it was not in our best interest to act that way, so we're not gonna do it.
Part of the
Would
issue,
be-
part of the issue might be that as soon as we sell those bonds, we're liable for the $9.3 million. We start billing the taxpayers
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that
it.
amount for the next 30 years.
Right,
This way, we're putting off billing the
Yeah.
taxpayers. But like I know my taxes would go from $400 to $600 basically. All right, so it's because I have new construction and blah blah blah. So that's what the bump would be versus this $12,000 would roughly be what, $1.
it's
For-
less than $1 of,
For
No,
my
I'm just
household.
thinking in terms
For the
of, you
first-
know,
for the
we
first year.
need to, because we have to do a capital fund we have to do a campaign to raise money to buy things like furniture and things like that. You know, if we had that money, we could use it towards the building, you know, whatever interest we
I
get
think
to use
that
toward the building.
the discussion was that the liability was too great to, it didn't, I'm losing my words. It wasn't worth the risk to do it now. It was not the fiscally responsible thing to do it this year. So until we actually know what we're gonna spend, we shouldn't borrow the money.
It wasn't the intent to make money with the bond.
Right, the
It's
bond, right.
to
And I don't even
build
know
a
if.
library.
No, I know
the
it
account
wasn't the
was
intent
in.
for
I
the
know,
bond,
but
but
I
it's,
don't know.
you know, it's
Is
still,
that
Right,
you know,
but-
if we can get interest that
it
we can pay
permissible?
for things,
I don't know.
we should do it.
But if you sell the whole package, you're talking about a 30-year bond, is it 30-year we said?
Yes.
Mhm.
30-year bond, and the interest rate is probably about 3.5%. That's why the payment is so large, because they have to project it out over 30 years, so it's like 3.5%. They're only projecting this 1 year, that's why it's down around 1%.
Right.
So the carrying charges just become immense right
Mhm.
away,
Yeah.
rather than,
Mhm.
you know, once the new building's open, maybe people will be less
Won't mind
upset
so
about
much
that
paying their taxes.
bump
and-
in their
Mm.
Yeah.
library tax.
Yeah, there was that too. Just the psychological aspect, there's nothing
Right.
going on the property for a year, but they're paying for it anyway.
Yeah, and that fairness too, keep the responsibility of the bonds more in line with the projected payment
Right.
of the.
Right,
the
exactly.
expenses,
That's
yeah.
what the bonds were for. This was just
Yeah.
the preliminary cost. We don't have money and we can't pay for it out of our operating budget. So we'd have to borrow the money. So this is the most reasonable way to do it. So that's why we're gonna vote on this later. Any other questions about that?
So this is,
That letter is, what our lawyer wrote, right?
That's from this morning.
Yeah, this is the one that
This
our
is the
lawyer
latest,
wrote,
yeah.
well, Janine Bruscos from Fiscal Advisors. Yeah, but our lawyer was, how many copies of this did we get today?
5.
I think we got 5 different copies of this today. But this is the letter the lawyer wrote, so once the board approves that bond anticipation note, then this is the letter we'll send to the school district tomorrow morning. Everybody okay with that? Alright, we'll vote on that coming up. Now, the, new building, we also had a meeting with, well, like Matt was saying, the Historical Society, Arm of the Friends met with the architects, and we met with the architects, and we had members of the public with us as well. And yes, the issue of storage keeps coming up. Megan made an excellent point. She said that the design we put out to the public is pretty much the design we're going to get, but the interior, everything is movable. You know, I mean, it's designed the way it is because that's what the public asked for when we had all those public meetings. But there's a big giant atrium that doesn't need to be a big giant atrium, that could become storage, and there's office space that could be moved back and forth, and there's, you know, rooms that can shrink and grow, and most of what was approved was the square footage and the footprint and the outward design. The interior could all be moved around. So we talked about having a citizens advisory committee. I keep
Right.
I keep mangling the name of
Right.
this, and what we've decided is to have members of the community who have knowledgeable input to meet with Paul Mays, depending on his availability in March, and then again 6 weeks later, so that they can advise, you know, and make it, because people outside the library will see things that people who are sitting here all day will just, you know, you don't notice anymore. So yeah, so Jim's been working on rounding up people to be members of this committee, and we're waiting to hear from Paul what his availability is, and that's about as far as we've gotten with that.
But I wasn't, in my mind, I was thinking that the Citizen Advisory Committee, which is a temporary committee,
Right.
would make their recommendations to us, and then we would take what they say to Paul, but we could do it jointly, we could have a joint
Yeah.
meeting.
Well, I think we originally were going to do that, and when
Mm.
I discussed it with Megan, she suggested Paul, because then there's no in between,
Okay,
and she said that's one of the
That's
things
fine.
he does very well.
right.
And so, yeah, we asked him, but I
Oh.
haven't heard back what his availability is. We're gonna ask for a few dates,
Yeah,
hopefully like weekends and things that would be
and Bill
available to
Bill
more
Troy
people.
has agreed that if it's agreeable with us, he would be happy to chair this committee,
Excellent.
this temporary committee.
Great, thank you. And it would just be for, you know, leading up to the first meeting and then the meeting 6 weeks later, and then that would be the end of it.
How do we let the public know that that's available?
Well,
Well, it's not gonna be like the,
It's
open
not
to
gonna be like
every-
charrettes, you
No,
know,
it's not,
different.
it's not everybody who's
But-
interested to come in, because that was the before. This is people who, actually like with the Historical Society, or people who have certain knowledge about how, computer systems work, or people who understand, I don't even know. I'm just thinking of the things we were talking about, the server rooms and all these things that I would never have realized was a problem, because I'm not that kind of person. So if someone who does these things for a living has something to say about, you know, those are the kind of people that we want on this committee. Not just, I mean, the people who use the library had their say already, so the people who are like specifically knowledgeable about different aspects of building construction and what public buildings need, or who we're looking for.
I think the plans are still available, they're upstairs.
Absolutely,
they're on the
and
website,
I mean, it's not
anybody
like
who's
we
looked
don't
at
want
them.
input from people,
Yeah.
but anybody who has something to say, you know, you never know when a good idea is gonna come up, but this particular committee, I think we were focusing more on, am I wrong about that, Jim?
well, I didn't want to filter too much. I sort of think that the committee, you know, and Bill should be allowed to, you know, pass the word
Yeah,
to the community, and, you know, people who are interested to contact him, and I guess they might have a meeting or two to kind of get their, you know, ideas out. If somebody's really interested, I would hate to say, oh, no,
Oh,
you're not
no,
an
no,
expert,
yeah.
you can't come to the
Right.
meeting. The Citizens Advisory Committee, but only certain citizens or something like that.
Yeah,
So I
no,
think we need to have it be fairly open. We could put, I guess you could put notice on the website. This meeting's recorded and is available, and
That's true.
you can pass the word. But I agree with you. I don't think we should have a meeting at the senior center with 50 people.
right, that's not,
Right.
So I don't know how you
That would be-
envision it, but
I would think, I mean, if, for example, we could invite certain people who we already know,
right,
have an interest and have expressed points of view,
right,
maybe a mention on the website, low-key kind of thing.
right.
But
It's
it's-
not, it's just not, this would, I don't think that would be constructive.
Yeah.
And, Megan agreed,
Yeah.
and that was the objective, was to have people who, like I said, you know,
Yeah,
yeah,
I think we can manage it.
yeah. Right, it's not like a big secret meeting that way, no,
No.
I'm sorry, you don't have the key, the
No.
password, you can't get in, but, right. Was there anything else we discussed?
well, I think if we're gonna create it, we have to officially do it. So I'll make a
Okay.
motion to create a temporary Citizens Advisory Committee to report back in roughly 6 weeks regarding the new building.
Okay,
Headed
and
by
we'll
Bill
appoint
Troy.
Bill Troy. Okay, who wants to second that motion? Megan, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. There you go, Bill, you're on.
Can I
Okay.
ask?
You wanna discuss your
just
budget?
Curious regarding the Friends Bookstore location.
Yes.
They have an issue with it being across from the desk there, or what was the
They,
issue?
the issue was, well, there were a couple of different things. It was about storage, it was about, and that was one of the things that could be moved into the atrium, so that, it was really, should come to the citizens.
So I think it was
Well,
because
if
that
it
was,
at night.
they were thinking
not
about putting
working.
the
They were gonna put the
historical
historical
side
stuff
there and
in
have
that
to move
room.
that,
And then move
That was
that
one of-
forward
just
into,
one of many
there were a lot of
scenarios that
ideas,
Yeah.
Oh.
play out, you know.
yeah.
But it was purposely put across from the
It was
desk
purposely
there
put across
for-
from the desk so the desk could keep an eye on it,
Yeah.
but the Friends, what?
You got it? Go ahead.
Okay, but the Friends would have control of the room and lock the room when there wasn't anyone there,
Right.
so there's really no reason for the library staff to be
Mm.
taking care of something that belongs to the Friends.
Okay.
Yeah,
And it would
basi-
be in line with, like, Thrall has a separate building,
Yes.
and the library proper takes no, not no interest, but
Mm.
it has no control of it, the Friends run the entire thing.
Yeah.
So moving it out to the atrium, having like another room, you just walk into the library and there's the Friends store, could be right in front of you.
Okay.
That wouldn't diminish the value of the room, and then would give us room to move the historical society so that we don't have people traipsing up past the children's area to the historical room. I mean, there were a lot of good reasons to move it around,
Interesting.
but yeah, nothing's been decided yet. We're still, and that's why we have the Citizens Advisory Committee, because then, you know, if lots of people see a really good solution and whatever. So,
And they like Paul Mason Group likes the atrium. So imagine after future discussions, they're going to come back with something that's an appealing smaller atrium probably.
Sure.
That makes better use of that space.
right.
But you know,
Right.
there's as they move stuff around, and you know, like raw storage probably costs less than anything else we put in the building.
Sure.
So anything that we attribute to more raw storage might actually help
Lower
diminish
the
the
cost
lower
of
cost of
everything, yes.
building it. So they're the architects. They're gonna bless you. They're the architects, and they're gonna work through the suggestions we bring to them,
Mhm.
and you know.
And they could have, with the suggestions that are brought to them, they could say, well, think about it also in this way, and they might also change their
Yeah.
thinking, change our thinking, and
Right.
go for
I mean, the things we
forward.
suggested were in terms of, you know, keeping the meeting room more easily accessible after hours. We talked about having a gate brought down that blocks the
Right.
stairs. Maybe they'll be able to rework things because we would say, well, we want something else in the atrium, and rework the stairs so that it's not so.
Yeah, and part of moving the historical society room downstairs was to ease up the work of the reference librarian, so she doesn't have to walk all the way to the other side of the library. Plus there were security issues with the
Mhm.
children's room upstairs and the historical room right across the hall, and so there were a lot of good reasons to move things around, but nothing's been absolutely decided yet, so more needs to be done. Was that it with the new building? Yeah. Okay. Alright, come up there. Physical resources?
I have something I want to mention about, it's been a little while the referendum and everything was sort of picking up steam, there were other subtopics kind of going along underneath the water that I failed to bring to the full board's attention. I wasn't even sure what it needed to be, and now I'm thinking of, we have a few items out there, valuable items, assets of the library that are at various locations that were sort of lent out for a variety of reasons, but primarily space. And some of them seem more vulnerable than others. And I'm thinking of the mini sink monument that's on the steps of the courthouse down the street. We've been talking with the DPW to have it brought over here,
Mhm.
and they're ready to do it. They're waiting for me to give them the go ahead. And I just, unless anybody has an immediate, reason not to do it, I was gonna let them do it. I mean, we're gonna probably put it in my office, maybe, or it's about 3 by 3. I mean, it's not enormous. It's heavy, but it'll be the DPW, not me and Ed moving it. So, the only thing I could see is it would be nice if we could just move it straight to the new building, but that's a couple of years off, and it is sitting sort of in a strange place out there. So unless anybody can see a reason why we shouldn't, while we have the opportunity, just have it moved over here, I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Okay?
Can I get the correct name of it?
The mini sink monument. Okay, that's all. I just wanted to, so you all knew that was happening.
It's actually in a
It's
like a
like
plastic-
plexiglass kind of.
plexiglass case. So when you move it, does it all come together and you move the case? Is it the way it works?
Yeah,
or-
I'm not sure. I haven't ever touched it, but I imagine it. Yeah, I imagine it's probably.
Yeah, I think it's hermetically sealed.
Oh, is
in
it?
that
Okay,
case, yeah.
okay. We found out recently that it's actually only one part of a much larger monument. Who was that? Was that you, Ed, that found the
It's
picture?
in a book. There, it used to have a peak on the top of it at one point, but that who knows when that
He
was.
is gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gone.
So, trying to do the best we can to keep the last third of it.
And the DPW is because they move big things in town? Is that why?
They have the wherewithal.
You know, it was. I have to say, it
They have
was.
big machines.
Tom Leake helped out a lot. He seems to know
Great guy.
people at the county level, and he was able to help find people that could help us out. So, thanks, Tom.
Thank
There,
you.
just to inject one thing, there's other items like at Village Hall that are also belong to the library.
Yeah.
Paintings and things,
Mhm.
and they should be notified that they don't actually own some of those
Mhm.
things.
That's a good idea, yeah.
Because there's a whole new set of people over there that I'm sure,
Have no
have
idea
no
that
idea.
those are ours paintings, yeah.
and maybe they can be used in the new library.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
actually a good
Yeah,
idea.
definitely.
Is that
They
something
need
that
letters.
would
Yeah,
be
we have a
doing?
list. We've been working on it sort
Ann
of
knows
off and
all
on.
of this.
Yeah, everything was cataloged when it was
Right,
lent
right,
out.
right.
Yeah.
We know who has what. They just may not know that what they have is
Right,
ours.
exactly.
They just need to be reminded.
So it'd be nice to have in the new building,
Right.
a gallery space.
It is, it'd be
Right.
lovely.
I think we talked about it in the past. Is there some concern that we need to bring it back here one day a year, one just every 5 years or something like that? Like we have to do with the right of way or something?
That I know of, but
No? Okay. Or just
hope
send
not.
out, or just send out letters saying, hey, it's
They've
ours.
been gone for quite a few
Yeah.
years,
Yeah,
so.
okay.
Yeah.
but it's a good point. But we have a list, and I have a list, and I've been working with Ann somewhat. It was Ed that spurred us on to do the mini sink monument, just because it was covered in plastic for a while, and it was moved here, moved there, and it just seemed like it was
It's gonna get lost.
gonna get lost, or
Yeah.
so.
I was afraid that somebody was just gonna come up, I shouldn't say this.
No
I just
idea.
thought it would
Never mind.
disappear one
Yeah,
night,
that's
that's
right,
all.
there you go.
Does it have the names of the people that died?
Yeah,
The names of the people that died in that
Yeah.
battle? Oh.
it's not,
Not in good shape, but
yeah,
it's
it's
weathered.
not- yeah.
Okay.
So long as your office can handle it, as long as it's not too heavy for the floor or something
Yeah,
like that.
right.
That's probably one of the few
They're
spots
right
we could
down
put it,
there.
you know?
Next meeting, it'll be right.
This
kids-
put the
the
microphone
kids-
on top of it.
Crayon on the outside of it down here.
Microphone on
yeah.
top, it'll be fine. See, this is why we need a new microphone. Okay,
That's it.
anything else for physical resources? The physical resources committee have anything going on? No?
We haven't met in a while.
I know, we haven't,
Yeah.
we've been preoccupied.
Right.
Okay, community resources. I actually have a question about the Vote Yes Facebook page. Do you run it?
Yes,
Can you change the name of it since the
Yes.
Vote Yes
Yeah.
is done with?
yes.
We could
that's,
just make it like the new building or something, or?
Yeah, I
don't know.
wanted to talk to everybody. I didn't want to go ahead and name it as like Friends of the Library, because there already is a group called the Friends of the Library. I mean, everybody on the page is friendly with the library. I'm just wondering what I should name that, because it's a sizable group of people that.
Right, but who can post on it? Just you?
No, anybody
Everybody can?
Yeah, it's public.
Right, so it's about the new building though, and it's mostly
Yeah,
to
but
keep
it's-
excitement going and
Yeah.
information going, right?
Yeah, it's just to keep everybody
Maybe
informed.
progress,
and-
something in terms of, the progress
Right.
as we go along
Right.
the
Yeah.
stages, ages and
Sure.
stages, just
Right.
like Dr. Spock,
Yeah.
ages and stages.
There you go.
Yeah, but I'm just wondering if anybody had any strong ideas about what we might call it going forward.
How about going forward?
There you go.
Going
New
forward
build-
with the
just
Goshen
new
Library.
building.
Yeah,
Just
that sounds
new
good.
Going
building.
forward, got it. Okay. I'll take care of that tomorrow morning. I don't have anything else for community resources. The actual Friends group is meeting, I think, in March, and I think that we wanted to be there for that, but there's nothing else going.
The newsletter is going out.
For the
Newsletter
vote?
will be out.
Oh, the newsletter, yes, we got the date now for the vote, so I'll put something out tomorrow about when we're gonna start working on it. And we work backward from when we
From
vote
the
on the
vote.
date,
Yeah.
tonight. I do wanna mention, this could go under Friends or under Human Resources, I spoke to Laura, the, president of the Friends, just before the meeting actually, and she said that the Friends are quite eager to assist us now in any way we need help. I brought up that we really have to start talking about fundraising, that's the main
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
But that we were in contact with Elizabeth Rowley and community foundations of Orange and Sullivan County, and that we're trying to figure out exactly how that works, but I think that there would probably be a piece of that for them, but we're not sure yet. But in any event, she said, if you need us to schedule any other meetings sooner, we're sort of waiting for you guys to let us know when you're ready, when you have enough information or you have directive for us. So I'm just putting that out there, that they're more than willing to start moving forward on the fundraising efforts. We're talking, bigger fundraising efforts. I mean, the book sales and stuff are great, but we're thinking about more.
Big bucks.
Yeah. So
Maybe the three of us should meet,
Mhm.
and come up with some ideas and go to the next Friends meeting. And
Yes.
ask them.
Mm-hmm.
and I know Bernie's been working with Elizabeth Rowley with community. Are you going to bring that up? You going to talk a little bit about that later? I have some things I can add to it with the Community Foundation.
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
Is that on here?
We will just, we
We
talked
could
about it.
just
in
talk
the
about it
meeting.
right now, because it's, we can't actually start the fund unless we have money. And
That's
We need,
that's the basic
we need
problem.
non-taxpayer money,
Right.
and it's gotta be $5,000, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
I put a call into Rob Schultz about Bernie had some interesting novel ways that we might seed.
Now, some interesting ways.
But no, well, two things. One, I think Bernie talked about years ago. He said this library was a 501c3 association library before it was chartered as a school district library. Therefore, there should be some. He said this is the problem. Tracing back would be it'd take a sleuth to find out how much money was in that fund balance before it became a school district public library, because that money is free for you to use at your discretion.
It's like friendship bread, it's like there must be something that started
But
the
it's-
fund balance a long
But
time
who
ago.
knows
Yeah.
what that
Yeah,
is, right? He
take
said
over your
finding
life.
out. I had Jack do some research,
Yeah.
and the books don't go
That
back
seems
that
a
far.
little-
Right.
That seems like it would read a little shady to everybody
Yeah.
else.
Well, and that we used or made use of the TAN process and everything else. It's probably tough to trace that down. But
Yeah.
we've had other contributions recently.
We looked through it though, and we're talking in the hundreds, really.
Yeah, we're
Didn't
at
somebody
thousands.
pass away and leave us a few thousand?
$3,000.
I
We used
thought-
it for the cupola. It's gone.
Oh, we've used for
It's
the
spent.
okay, all right, there you go then.
Well, she remembers.
Oh,
That's
the
right.
cupola.
That's right.
Cupola.
That's
It's
right.
done.
It's done.
Okay.
All right then.
So-
Well,
That
we're
was
back
the
to
one, yeah.
square one,
Yeah.
but yes.
If anybody wants to give us money,
That's right. That's right. So that's something you can discuss with
Yeah,
the
that's-
next Friends meeting. That in order to get the ball rolling, you need donation money to get the donation.
And we should find out too, because didn't the
manager.
the construction
For five?
managers.
Yeah, he did. Did they even give us an amount, Jack? Did they? Gilbane.
I thought it was
Could be.
5.
No, not today.
I thought it was
500.
It's fine.
Well, I know that.
Really?
I thought it was 5,000.
I don't think so.
Well, I know we
I
talked
don't think
about
I
we
ever
needed
heard
that
an
much.
amount.
I know we
I
knew we needed that for the event, but I wasn't.
Yeah, I don't think
That
so.
number and that individual, or
Well, that would be something to
somebody
follow
said
up
that.
on.
Okay.
All right.
If they want it,
Anyway.
we'll take it.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, right. Whatever.
Because that would be the.
Yeah, we need that.
That's
that
what
would
we
be
need. Yeah.
and we'd be able to set the
And
account.
then the Girl Scouts
Then we can
donated
send
money
them.
to us at some point too. I
Mhm.
forget how much money that was.
Well, if
too.
it all adds up eventually to 5,000, then we can open up this account.
Yeah.
And the idea about the fines, I thought it was brilliant, but he said you wouldn't be able to, that wouldn't work either.
Well, that was
But it
only
was a
that was
cool
only if
idea.
it came up.
Right,
yeah,
right.
yeah, because.
It's up, I mean,
But it's yeah,
Bernie,
we,
you're
we
thinking.
include that in our budget every
Yeah,
year.
no,
so I don't
that's-
think
yeah,
that would,
that's
I
library
really
revenue.
didn't think that would be it.
Yeah, that's not okay.
but you remember that number, hearing that number?
We could
Okay.
have a can on it, thing of it, donations, tip your library.
No,
No,
no bill is too small.
that's right, exactly.
No sound is too quiet.
That's right, exactly. Folding money accepted.
Did you have something in your email about?
Okay, Sunshine Committee, how we doing there, Jim?
Sunshine Committee's doing fine,
Is it still liquid?
still liquid.
Alright,
Actually, we probably should be sending, shortly a new baby
This
card
month, yeah.
for Megan.
That would be
Should
nice.
do within a week or so.
she's gonna have her baby Friday,
That's right.
this
Okay,
Friday.
so
she's
you
gonna
wanna
be
let
Friday.
us, let me know.
Yeah,
when
sure.
the-
Yeah, get the details and send her
Okay.
something, that's nice. And the Friends?
Well, the only thing there that, of course, the trolley, talk was very, very successful. The historical committee's gonna meet at the end of this month on the 29th. And we're talking about other events. The one that's at the top of the list is a repetition of an event we did in 2010. It's hard to believe. It's called
Wow.
Made in Goshen.
Oh, I remember that.
And it has to do with all these things that were made in Goshen years and years ago. And we're exploring things we can add to the event beyond what we had at that time. The date on that was going to be in April, and now I think it's going to be in May. We're still, things are evolving there.
Is there a date yet?
No,
The date has
14th
not
or
been finalized
21st, one
yet.
of those two, right?
We had a couple of dates, we're working on.
somebody in town owns one of the cars, right, that was made here? Am I remembering correctly from the last?
There was a car that was manufactured here. We don't have the car, we have some
Photos of.
photos and news articles and so on,
Oh, okay.
but,
So I remember discussion about the car at the last time we had
Right.
it made in Goshen, and I was wondering, I didn't remember correctly.
It's probably in a barn somewhere.
Yeah, probably,
Would
they
be
don't
nice.
know that's what they have.
Look for it.
and that'd be great, a barn find.
What's
Okay.
the next Friends meeting?
The Friends meeting's gonna be the end of March, and I don't know whether,
Oh, no.
they usually go on, I think Tuesdays, not Mondays, so
Okay.
I'm not sure if she goes to the 4th. I think there's 5 Tuesdays in March, I'm not sure which one, but we'll send out an announcement about it.
Okay.
Not February?
Not February.
The historical committee's meeting in February, but the larger group is meeting in March.
Okay. Alright, thank you, Jen. Is there any unfinished business we need to go over before we move on?
Didn't we need to vote on this?
Yeah,
And,
we're gonna get to it.
Oh, I thought we,
No, I
Oh,
was
okay.
explaining it to you because
Oh,
it was
okay.
part of the new building,
okay.
just so you know what it is when we vote on it, we just power right through. Okay, so there's no unfinished business. Okay, so for the new business, we're going to do the tax cap override resolution just because we're going to, because it's the smart thing to do, because last year we accidentally went over it without realizing we were going over it, remember? So it was a good thing we had it signed ahead of time, so it's just, we've been advised to just do that every year because you never know. And this way we're covered should anything go wrong. So I'm going to read this, and then we're gonna vote on it, and then I'm gonna sign it, right?
Right.
Right. Okay, whereas the adoption of this 2016-2017 operating budget for the Goshen Public Library and Historical Society requires a tax levy increase that exceeds the tax cap imposed by state law as outlined in General Municipal Law, Section 3-C, adopted in 2011. And whereas General Municipal Law, Section 3-C, expressly permits the library board to override the tax levy limit by a resolution approved by a vote of 60% of qualified board members. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Goshen Public Library and Historical Society voted and approved to exceed the tax levy limit for fiscal year 2017 operating budget by at least the 60% of the Board of Trustees as required by law on February 8th, 2016. All in favor?
Motion.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, may I have
Need
a
a
motion?
motion in
Sorry.
a second?
Yes, I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself. Let's try that again. May I have a motion to accept this? There There we go. Norma and Bernie. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Nobody, I love that. Okay, motion passes, I will sign this, and, then we'll move on to the next. Okay, right? Okay. Now, the band request approval, do I have to read this, or just?
I think so.
Is
No.
the amount.
Yes,
on record.
I wasn't sure how we wanted to do it. Okay, so we're going to request a ban from, let's do it this way. May I have a motion to, accept the proposal to request a ban for $950,000 and to approve a capital tax levy for the 2016-17 budget in the amount of $11,875 to pay the interest on that ban. Bernie?
I have a question.
Yes, Jim?
Is it appropriate to call the 11,875 a capital expenditure?
It is, because it's part of the new building project, and it's going to be,
Okay.
paid for through that project.
Okay.
We double
And it's
checked
a-
this
Yeah,
after
we
we read
did.
the letter.
It's really, this has
Yeah.
been going on for weeks. Yeah, it's a capital tax levy.
Okay.
Yes, and it's just in-house, we just have to report the number to the school district, this isn't public,
Okay.
the public already voted on it. Okay, so again, so it's Bernie and Emily, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Nobody, thank you, the motion carries, we will mail this tomorrow, do I?
Yes, I'll take care
Oh,
of
she'll
that.
sign that, right, I'm not involved. Okay, now, on to the operating budget. Okay, yes, this has the zero increase, 1 and 2. We each got a copy of it at last month's meeting, so if you had a chance to look it over and, what you decide,
This is the year
which,
over year. This is the comparison one.
right, there's the zero, and then the 1 year, or the 1% and the 2% and the 1%.
Start the motion.
Yeah, go ahead, Bernie,
In-
get rolling.
In that, we really, 2% is really the minimum that we need, and this is strictly operating expenses
Sure.
that we go through every year. I would make the motion to just make a 2% increase like we need. We really need probably more than that, but
Right.
2% is, I'll make the motion that we make a 2% increase in the budget this year.
Does
for the
anyone
coming
second
year.
that motion, or would you like to,
Discuss.
discuss it
Well, you
further?
can second it and then you discuss it, if anybody wants to second it, and then you discuss it as.
Second, discussion.
Go ahead, Norma, bring it up.
Are we sure that we have that $11,000 covered?
The $11,000 is separate.
It's,
It has nothing to do with the operational. The
Which-
$11,000 is capital money. It's
Right.
for the bond, right? That's separate.
That's gonna come out of the
That's-
the
950,000.
950?
That
$950 that we're
$11,000 will be part of people's library tax because they already approved the bond.
Okay,
So it's separate, it has nothing to
Okay.
do with
It'll be a
this.
separate-
should make sure
should be
we
a s-
make
Yeah,
that-
no, it's
that
not coming out of
distinction.
this.
Separate
yeah.
line item,
Yes,
it should be a
it's
separate line
completely
item on the
separate.
bill.
okay,
Right,
let's go, discussion over.
alright, so
Vote.
2%, discussion, let's discuss the 2%.
I'm just trying to understand that.
Yes,
Now
sir.
we discussed some of this before, but
We did.
it's the same amount that we tax our patrons, except we're taking more out of the reserve fund? Is that how that works?
No,
No.
no, this is a 2%
With the
increase.
2%, we're taking 9,000 out of the reserve fund.
Right,
With the 1%, we'd be taking 22,000
Oh, I
out of
see.
the
So it's
reserve
Make the
fund.
difference
Right.
up there,
Okay.
right.
That's how it
We're
works.
gonna take
Gotcha.
less out of the
Right.
reserve fund.
right.
It'd be nice to actually not attack the reserve fund. In order to do that, we'd probably have
To
to
go to 3 or 4.
increase it by about 2.2% or something.
Mhm.
Okay, I thought we had a lot in the reserve fund.
Yeah, we're really close to the bone.
Okay.
How much is in the reserve fund?
Well, every year we end with like 220, 230,000.
See, I thought there was a lot of money.
Yeah, for us, for individuals, it would
That's
be a
just-
lot of
that's the
money for the
carry-
library.
That's the
It's
carrier budget through
It's
the
not
3
even a
months.
cutter,
so
it's not
waiting.
even, it doesn't,
Okay.
it doesn't do it, it doesn't
And,
cover
and,
us.
and
for
really,
even a
really
quarter.
what happens is the reserve fund just offsets what we use for a tan.
Right.
So we asked for how much, 100,000 or 200,000 for this?
200.
Yeah, which
200.
makes up the difference, but doesn't really,
Yeah,
the
yes.
reserve wouldn't cover the first quarter, the tan doesn't cover the
So
first quarter.
if we did a 3% increase, whatever the amount comes to, that would decrease, or, so if we rigged it so that we didn't touch the reserve appropriation, we would just borrow less in the TAN. We would still be borrowing the TAN
We
for the
should
coming
borrow the
fiscal year.
entire quarter in the TAN, but, you know, it's a discussion for another time. That's not really,
Year after
Yeah.
year.
what?
Year after
Year
year.
after year,
Year
it's the
after year,
discussion,
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, in order to get rid of the TAN, we would need a financial plan to get rid of the TAN, and
To
it
change
is
our
a discussion
fiscal
for another
year.
time.
Well,
That
in
we
order,
could
no, we
change our
would,
fiscal year.
in order to
No,
get rid of, but we
if we
would
were-
still be operating that year's budget with last year's money. That's part of the problem with the TAN. That's why we get the TAN one of the reasons we get the TAN every year.
Yeah, it,
I'm getting out from under the
it's a
scope
definition
of
of what's
the-
fiscally responsible, is what it is, you know,
Yeah,
so
right.
we borrow and get the money and spend it all in 1 year, and that's
That's
our
what we're
version of
supposed to-
fiscally responsible versus,
Can I have the number, what the 2% increase represents?
Oh, when we
as-
decide what it is, we'll do it that way, how's that? So that we're not, okay?
You
So-
did mention 2% already though, and in the motion.
Right, we
oh yeah,
motion-
but we
oh,
can
yeah.
also rescind the motion and
Right, we could just
Come up
decide
with
that's
another
not what
one,
we're
yeah.
gonna do.
Okay.
I sort of like to talk about the idea of getting rid of this, or increasing our balance so that we don't have to borrow money every summer in the form of a TAN. So in other words, if we were to go, I'm just going to throw out the 3% number. That would mean, since apparently 1% seems to be about
12,000.
13,000,
Yeah.
then that would basically enable us to increase our this coming year, to increase our fund balance by 4,000 rather than reducing it.
Right, by
The
9.
year that follows, since I'm just trying to figure out at what level will we have to go to, let's say, over a span of 5, 6, 7 years, increase the fund balance to the point where we don't have to go borrow money every summer.
Well, it looks like it would be more like 10 or 15%
But-
over what it is, cause if 1% represents $12.7 thousand, and we borrow 150.
But we're also,
It would probably be 5 to 8 years, I would say.
there is the potential of our needing to have even a larger amount because of increased staffing
Mm-hmm.
and other
Right.
costs.
And we only built in a 3% pay salary
Yeah.
increase.
That is real.
But also the retirement bill, we already know that it should be lower than that according to the preliminary number that they gave us.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's like 63,000, we budgeted 70,
70.
we were a little conservative.
Mm-hmm.
But
Right,
that's,
because of that one year we got shellacked so bad. Yeah.
right. And plus if the market keeps crashing like it was, then maybe it won't be
Mm-hmm.
as low as what they say, but we're conservative in a lot of these lines, like even the health insurance.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we're gonna really use that much, but it's probably prudent to leave a big number in there.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say at the end, we probably wouldn't even use any of the reserve appropriation, but to build up to a 10, right, it would have to take 6, 7, 8 years of having 3% increases, possibly.
and 3% or more.
Or more than 3.
that.
More than
It'd be
3,
more
yeah.
than that,
Yeah.
But once we do a 3 1 year, then it's built in every year, so that extra 13, 12,
Right.
13 would be in every single year.
Right, but you'd have to add to it each year another percent, so it would
Right.
It would
Mhm.
take
Mhm.
8 or 10 years to get up there. At 1% more, or
Right,
2-3%
exactly,
each year,
yeah. That's right.
It
Okay.
may not be a good time to do it with a new building. Maybe, you know, there are enough issues out there in regard to increased costs for the library.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we just go with the 2%, and
I'm inclined
but when we
to.
open that building, we're gonna bump it up for sure.
We're gonna have to.
Probably about 10%
Yeah.
to open the building, something
Who
like that.
knows? We don't know.
So are we better off doing it gradually or doing it when we open the doors? I don't know.
I don't either.
And that's,
I say gradually.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's
If
painful,
we
it's
do it
less painful
gradually,
that
then
way.
we should go at least 3% this year.
and we're talking about roughly an extra
38.
buck, roughly an extra dollar, I mean, like, again, we're talking about rough numbers.
Again, right, yeah,
But-
but with this, each percentage is roughly $1 a person, $1 a household. So each percentage point is about $1.
Right.
So 1% is $1, 2% is 2, so we're talking $3 per household.
So what was
this
the
year.
approximation of the the standard household for the bond,
4119
4119. So instead of
per
41,
100,000. Right.
so instead of 4119, which is what's going to happen the first year we borrow or we sell those bonds, I guess is how it's.
Sure.
We would say, okay, we want an extra $1 for the interest this year, the 11,875,
Mhm.
and then we want a 2% increase, which is an extra $2. Well, actually, we want an extra $3 for a
Right.
3% increase.
Right.
So we're asking a standard
This
household
year,
for $4.
If we go
$4
with a
more.
3% budget and the bond anticipation note interest, each household in Goshen would be $4 this year.
Would be increased an extra $4.
Right, it would be whatever they paid last year plus $4 for this year. And that would pay for the bond anticipation note and the 3% budget.
I'm kind of leaning toward going for the 3% and trying to, get ourselves ready for this big hit that's coming. But what we don't wanna do is to look at the budget and say, well, we've got all this money here, now we can,
Mhm.
give people even bigger raises,
Yeah, no,
that we
that's not
wouldn't
what it's
have
for,
spent
right.
before, and do other things that,
Right.
I mean, even the discussion about borrowing the $950 so that we can pay the expenses we're currently incurring.
Mhm.
That money, any money that we pay or that we get paid back with the $950, that would wind up in the bank as a repayment,
Mhm.
is going to be spent on the building later anyway. It's
Sure.
really,
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
it's not like we've
Right,
already
but-
invested money in past years. Chances are we're going to have that money reserved because we don't know if we're going to need to spend $9.5 million or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Like, we really don't know when it comes down to buying the furniture or buying the curtains or the blinds or the lighting, whether we're going to need more money. So that money would be still
And that's outside the
So that's a
scope of
separate-
dog years
both.
from that,
That's
yeah.
really a different discussion.
right. That's all. Yeah.
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 So right now, we have a motion to vote for a 2% increase. So,
I can rescind that and
okay, you
Yeah,
gotta rescind
okay.
that
if
motion.
you rescind the second, rescind the,
Percent.
Yeah, okay, so now, can I have, how does everyone else feel?
I'll be the bad guy, I'll make a
All right.
motion, reduce
Jim's
3%.
All right, Jim made a motion for a 3% budget. Anyone wanna second that?
Yeah, I'll say that.
Keith will second that. Do we wanna discuss that further, or do you wanna go right to a vote?
I think the essential concept here is that we shouldn't keep borrowing from our fund balance, because the fund balance as it stands is not big enough to
Yeah.
do what we really should be doing,
Yeah,
so that's why.
and it'll continuously dwindle. So eventually it'll be down to
Right.
nothing. We need to
right,
Right.
bump up at that point anyway.
okay. Okay, so, any more discussion? Yes, no? Okay.
No.
All right then, may I have a vote? All in favor of a 3% budget? 3%, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No, okay, so we're gonna go with a 3% budget, we have no idea what that is, so Jim, will you work the numbers up for
Sure,
that?
absolutely.
Okay, you just work up a total for a 3% and give that to Carol, so she can put it in
Sure,
the minutes?
sure,
Oh, we
sure.
got this,
Yeah.
thank you. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you very much. And,
Can I address that in
you
the
can go
minutes?
home, I don't think there's
And
much
that's
more,
not-
but you should be all
Okay,
right.
great. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now, I should have to read, Carol, I read all this?
We can, yeah.
Yep.
Read each of these.
Yep.
Okay, and is that these three
That's,
things, these two things?
Yes, that's what the clerk of the vote, yes.
Okay, all right. So, we're gonna set our election date for April 13th, 2016. Resolved that the annual election for the Board of Trustees and budget vote shall be held on April 13th, 2016. May I have a motion to Norma, and a second, please? Bernie. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Clerk of the vote. Resolve that Carol Cullen, clerk of the board, be appointed clerk of the vote for the April 13th election/vote. May I have a motion for that? Emily and Norma, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Chairperson of the vote. Resolve that Ella Mary O'Brien be appointed chairperson of the vote for the April 13th election/vote. May I have a motion for that? Bernie?
Second.
Jim, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Okay, vote officers? That was
Sorry.
this,
Yeah,
right?
that's it, yeah.
Okay. The Orange County Trust
That's
line of
off
credit
the
discussion, we're not going to
table.
have, because They offered us a line of credit, or this, I'll just explain it to you. They offered us a line of credit because we paid off our loan. So, and they're very nice, and if we need it, it's available to us, but since we are going to do the bond anticipation note, which is a smarter move, will be good if, heaven forbid, there's an emergency before we actually sell bonds and we need a little extra cash. It's available, but we're not gonna follow through with it now.
What is the amount?
There is no amount,
Oh.
we didn't come up with anything
Okay,
yet, because we didn't go any further than that.
okay.
Then they just made it available and that was that. Okay? Alright, next month we'll discuss we should have a bill from fiscal advisors by then, and we should have, we should know when we're going to get our bonds anticipation note money, and then we will have to vote on paying that bill with the bond money. And we should know at the next meeting how much money we can reimburse the library operating budget for money put out toward the new building from the bond anticipation note. Anything else that we want on the agenda for next month,
Well, I want to talk about Community Foundation, briefly,
right now? Okay,
or when else we can do it, or we can do it next month.
no, I thought we did discuss it, I'm sorry. Yeah, we can do that, just let me get through this and then we'll go back to it, how's that?
Sure.
Anything else for next month? We're gonna talk about the newsletter, Norma, next month, is that right?
Yep.
Yeah, Emily's
Okay.
writing the piece
Mhm.
from the board.
Okay, great,
What's the date? for it?
I'll send it out tomorrow.
Okay.
okay, anything else that's important to have on next month's meeting?
Well, we'll report from our committee when we meet about fundraising.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, excellent.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
The
Our committee.
Community Resources
Community
Committee will have a
will meet.
report.
Okay.
Alright, okay, now we'll circle back to go ahead, Bernie, you wanted to discuss the,
Yeah, the only things are, I mean, I know I sent the letter that Elizabeth sent late, so I don't know if anybody's read it or not, the draft copy of that. I think really the steps would just be send that over to probably Ben and Robert, both, to review that agreement and see if they have any changes to make for it.
okay,
And then also just to come up with a name for the foundation, and I don't know whether we do this now or later.
Goshen Public Library and Historical Society
fun.
Fund.
All I'm picturing is the check has got that much space to write out.
G.
Yeah, we have
G.
GPHLHS
Yeah.
and GPLHS, I always do that, GPLHS, New Building Fund.
I mean, yeah, we
Something
can,
like that,
I think we should keep the name, I mean, that's
Intact.
us, yeah. It's much easier to call up and say, oh, I wanna make out a donation to the Goshen Public Library and Historical Society, and they're like, is there another one?
GPLHS
Yeah, yes.
fund.
Yes.
Fund,
fund,
building fund,
something like
Goshen
that.
Capital
Public
fund.
Library.
Capital
fund?
fund?
No,
The I Love the
Capital?
Library Fund,
it's
I don't
capital.
know.
well,
It's exclusively for capital funds, is what we're
Right,
shooting
it's,
for.
it's
are
not
we
for-
really
Yeah.
shooting for that, or do we wanna make it a fund that we can use for many different things?
Well, we can't use it for operational things, isn't that
No,
right?
not operational, but, a emergency repair that we might have,
But isn't that capital funds? I thought that, maybe I misunderstood.
Yeah,
Should be an all-encompassing fund. We shouldn't, I don't think we should
you
limit
wanna
it.
you wanna limit it?
No, I don't think we should limit it, We'll take any and all funds for the use of the library,
There you go. Yeah, we don't wanna restrict it too much.
No.
Well, it's a new
Yeah,
library.
and part of it
Yeah,
too
library.
is, part of it too is whenever somebody, that's fine, cause whenever somebody contributes to it, like later on we do naming opportunities and everything like that, whenever somebody contributes, they can actually dog ear that for something specific anyway.
specific, right,
Which
okay.
in a lot of cases will be the new building or take
Right.
park bench or whatever the case may be,
Bricks.
So if we leave it more
Yeah.
generalized,
Yeah,
then
yeah.
we can,
so.
It doesn't tie our
then-
hands.
right, exactly. So it's like, oh, no, you can't donate to that, cause it's only for X, Y, Z.
So, I don't know if we need to call it foundation or fund or,
I have no idea.
Goshen Public Library and Historical Society
Fund.
Foundation.
foundation.
Yes.
What does
That
Pine
one.
Bush do?
I think
What's
that's
that?
what they-
Pine Bush, don't they have a
Yeah,
fund?
they do.
They,
What do
they,
they call it?
they have one, but it was set up, it's called foundation, but it was also set up by somebody, long story short, it was set up by an individual who
Mhm.
donated a large portion of, what they got from the sale of the land, and they get the interest based on that every year. So
Okay.
it's set up differently from what ours will
I
be.
see.
Ours will be reserved for that. Later on, if somebody wants to donate a large portion from the sale of their land, and leave it for, that, they can either set up a separate foundation if they feel more comfortable, or they can leave it with ours, and we can just have the understanding, so that there's still only one, but yeah, so that's another example of there's various ways they can dog-ear it for use, so. So, yeah, so Goshen Public Library and Historical Society
Fund,
Foundation.
foundation,
Foundation.
foundation,
Foundation.
Fund. All right, whatever.
And we take estates.
Okay.
And
So
you
So
know,
we'll
size
discuss that,
estates.
you'll have more information, like, more solid information after talking to Ben and,
Yeah.
Okay, and we'll talk about that next month too?
Yep.
Okay. All right, anything else? Okay, privilege of the floor? Yes, John?
Could I ask a question on the most recent discussion here? This fund, foundation, whatever, it is specifically for the construction of the new library, is that
Yeah.
correct?
That's how it starts, but
Yeah.
it's not going to be limited to that. We're gonna set it up with that idea in mind, cause that was like our first,
We,
biggest
I'm sorry,
expense
not,
coming
not
up.
construction
It could
per
be
se, it's to
for furniture.
that's what we said in when we
That's a
were
big
coming
thing.
up with a number for the new library.
Right,
We,
Hold out.
because it was close to $10 million or at
Right.
10 million, so we decided we didn't
Cut
wanna
back.
go to the public with a $10 million library.
Hmm.
So we decided to things like the furniture allowance, to reduce that, and that we would fundraise for things like furniture, computers, and that. So that's how
right,
we
so,
came down
Let me
for that.
restate, I wasn't clear. So we're not proposing to use those funds for projects, capital projects, unrelated to the new library.
right,
Right,
Is that,
right,
Yes.
everything's related to
Right.
the
I think we
Mhm.
should just, however we wordsmith it, we should make that clear.
yeah.
So that people don't get the idea that that money now the library might take and put it here or there.
Oh, yeah, yeah, I
you know.
follow you.
Yeah, that's
I
why,
see
that's
what
why
you're saying.
initially we were talking
Well,
about specifying capital,
yeah.
capital
Right.
expenditures, but.
Right.
But capital,
And it might be necessary after you talk to the lawyer and Robert that capital be in the name.
Yeah.
It might turn out to be the case, but we don't actually know.
Yeah.
So,
because we
You
do
can
have
come
a
back next
separate
month and see what
capital
happens.
fund for the
Stay
library.
tuned.
stay tuned.
But it's separate from the 9.3 million. The 9.3
Right, the
million has
9.3 million
nothing
is
to do
tax
with
money.
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
taxpayer.
This will be voluntarily donated money that we will use
Yep.
toward upgrading the chairs and the tables and the computers and whatever else.
And in fact, the community foundation can't hold taxpayer money. So
Right,
even
they
when we
can't.
get the bond sold and we get the money from that,
We
that's
can't
gotta
use
go in
it.
a entirely separate account. Cannot be at the community foundation for anything, so.
Private funds only.
Private funds only, yes. Okay. Any other questions? All right then. We don't need to go into an executive session tonight, right? All right then, I guess we're done. All right, can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting at 8:45 PM? Oh yeah, look at that hand fly up. Keith and Jim, all in favor? Aye, I'm just gonna vote no on that. Okay, thank you very much, 8:45. Yeah.
I just realized that this is your signature